Gentlemen, this week, the name on the marquee has got to be Amanda Lemos, who this past weekend at UFC Fight Night Rodriguez versus Lemos defeated Marina Rodriguez by TKO in the third round. The official time, 54 seconds of round number 3. Mark, I've been talking enough. Give me your assessment of this fight between these two ladies and of the finish, because it was a little controversial.
Yeah, what a win for Amanda Lemos. I was pretty disappointed in Marina Rodriguez in the way that she fought. I thought that she looked really, really tentative, and I never expected that from her. I understand, obviously, that Lemos carries a lot of power, as we obviously saw. But because that's the case, when you're Marina, you know you got to rely on your volume to win that fight. It's what we said last week. And she didn't have any volume. And also, she's very much a flow fighter. And, you know, when she starts to land, she becomes like a boulder rolling downhill. And she never started to land. She never found that rhythm. So I never saw that type of fight coming at all. They both fought as if they were knockout artists who needed one shot. But only Lemos is that. Mm-hmm. So, and she showed that. She got to sit and wait and analyze, and she didn't have to worry so much about what was in her face, what I expected to be a lot of volume in her face, variety in her face. She didn't have to think in there so much because there wasn't that much coming at her. So she got to think about her own offense a lot more easily than I expected her to be able to. And if you let Amanda Lemos play that game, she's going to land, and she's going to hurt you. The power is very, very real for 115 pounds. But I think, you know, the only girl, frankly, who we saw really not fight tentative against Lemos was Jessica Andrade. She didn't give a fuck, and she won that fight. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I didn't see that coming from Marina. I really didn't. But yeah, Lemos fought well. She fought really well. She was patient in round 1, made her reads, got her timing, goes to the grappling in round 2 and does well there. And then round 3 is the kill shot, and she swarms Marina. And yeah, I guess Marina didn't look terribly hurt. Live, I actually really didn't like it. And then once I saw the replay, I was like, all right. She wasn't really responding as if she knew what was going on necessarily. So I guess that was enough for Herzog. I get why it was enough. And Amanda Lemos gets easily the biggest win of her career and biggest statement that she's made.
Omar, what did you think of the stoppage and of the performance from Amanda Lemos?
I understood the stoppage. When Mark originally texted us and was like, I don't know how I feel about that stoppage, I understood why, looking at it.
Yeah, that was the live before I saw the replay.
Yeah, but when I was watching it, the reality is Rodriguez kind of turtled up, standing up, and just looked like somebody who wasn't about to fight back. Just looked like somebody who was just going to continue to protect herself until she got dropped eventually by some shot, which seemed, at that point, unnecessary. I agree with Mark, though. She was tentative throughout that fight. She kind of almost seemed like she was point fighting as opposed to fighting, trying to pick a shot here and there, trying to get in without trying to get hurt. And what it did do, not only was she not putting volume together, but it also, I think, allowed for openings for Lemos to be able to exploit. Because she wasn't putting things together, there were a lot more opportunities for Lemos to get inside. You saw that more in round 2, and then obviously you saw it even more so in round 3. The power, though, the strength differential between Lemos and Rodriguez was crazy. Lemos, at some points, even when they got into a clinch range, was tossing Rodriguez around like it was her little sister, like it was messed up. So I understand the tentativeness. I mean, any one of those shots could have really done her damage. She got hit on the chin a few times by Lemos and was like, you know, you could see in her face that she felt it. So I just don't think she wanted to eat as many of those as she potentially could have, playing potentially a volume game. I think it was a tough ask. I think even when we talked about it last week, we talked about technique and volume having to be her key. And if she didn't really do that, it wasn't going to be a great night for her. And I think that's exactly what we saw this past weekend.
Dude, when you texted, I don't know how I feel about that stoppage, and then I think you said something like, on the rewatch, you weren't as mad about it. I tried to rewatch this stoppage a few times, man, and I could not get on board with it. The only thing that is redeeming for me is that it's my boy Jason Herzog and my love for him as well documented on this show.
You know, I actually thought about that live. I was like, Mike's not going to have a problem with this because it's Herzog.
But, dude, I, honestly, forgetting who the ref was, I hated this stoppage. I felt like for the circumstance that it was, she was still on her feet, and it was like, I feel like, I mean, I'd have to rewatch it again, but I feel like 2 or 3 punches landed and the fight was stopped. I was like, that could have gone quite a bit longer. I mean, and you know, in terms of MMA, quite a bit longer could have meant 2 more blows, and it could have been really over. But I just felt like that was really, really early, man.
I get it. I do get it. Obviously, like I said, I thought it live. In my perfect world, if I got to create exactly when that fight got stopped, I think I'd say maybe 2 more clean ones needed to land in my perfect world. But she wasn't getting her hands up or moving. So it was just a tough look the way she was kind of just standing there. So I get it. I do get it.
And in reality, Herzog probably was saving her from a world of hurt because Amanda Lemos is still standing right there, you know, wailing away, and she's not going anywhere. So, yeah, Herzog probably saved her a few brain cells.
But, I mean,
it was
for
the
a
lack
girl
of
who's never
moving
been
for me
finished,
that...
I get it. Right? She's never been that was her first time getting finished in her life?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, actually, her only loss is the Carla loss, right? So, yeah.
Yes,
obviously.
yes.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Omar?
I was just saying her not moving was my problem with why it got stopped. I mean, she, like I said, she turtled up. She was protecting herself as far as not standing there with her hands down, but she wasn't doing anything. There was no real intelligent defense as far as her being able to get out of that situation. And I mean, if we're just going to wait for Lemos to burn herself out, then I mean, there's a potential that, you know, Rodriguez gets fucked up in that moment. I don't really know if we need to wait until people get completely slept before we stop a fight.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, man. I always say I think after the fighters, I think the ref has the second hardest job. Probably the third hardest is probably judging.
And I'm just so interested to know what the game plan was. Like if the game plan was that odd point fighting game plan that none of us expected, or if her corner was sitting there like, what the fuck is she waiting for? Like I'd love to know which way that actually was. But yeah, tough performance from Marina.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that Marina would have skill for skill outstruck Lemos, but she is more of a finesse fighter, a finesse striker, and the strength differential in favor of Lemos proved to be considerable and consequential. Let's talk about this. Lemos, 35 years old, from Belém, Brazil. By the way, all 4 fighters on this card, on the main event and the co-main event, all 4 fighters, 35 years old, all 35.
That's dope.
Interesting little thing. Yeah. Lemos now back-to-back wins over Michelle Watterson and now Marina Rodriguez. Where do we think she goes from here? Mark, give me an idea of where she goes now at women's strawweight.
So first off, I think we absolutely have to wait and see what happens between Carla Esparza and Zhang Weili this weekend before matching either of these girls up, really. On top of that, it's kind of weird that Jessica Andrade has chosen to go back up to 125 now to fight Lauren Murphy, because after this Lemos win, Jessica Andrade is looking like the top contender at 115 pounds, considering she just beat Lemos. So that's kind of strange. So I don't know. I think Lemos could, with Andrade, up, I think Lemos could potentially get a title shot now if things shake out correctly. She could also fight Rose for Rose's return fight.
Oh, jeez.
But I think it's probably one of those things. I'm not sure where else you'd put her at this point. That was a huge, huge win over a girl who no one has really beaten in any kind of decisive way.
Omar, looking at the landscape of women's strawweight, any other names jump out at you for Lemos?
Yeah, I think it'd have to be Rose. I think Rose is the only one that really makes sense. I think if she beats Rose, especially if she beats Rose the way that she has been kind of going through people, how do you deny her a title shot? You know what I mean? Carla Esparza and Wei Li have to settle this weekend. Short of something ridiculous happening and some immediate rematch and needing to be necessary, you move right down the line. Rose hasn't been there for a little bit. I know she's been doing this movie thing that she, I guess it was a documentary about her life or her fight career.
Oh, cool.
So she's been busy outside of the cage. And I think Lemos, with the momentum that she's currently had, should fight Rose to see who's next in line. That to me makes the most sense. And for Marina, actually, the real problem with Marina is she's beaten the second half or the back half of the top 10. And so it's like, what do you really do with her? Because you can't really move her forward. And so I'm thinking Tisha Torres is probably her best bet at this point.
It'd be a good fight.
Tisha's also coming off of a loss. She's a little bit further down in the rankings, but like I said, every other fight at this point for Marina will be a rematch that she doesn't necessarily need to take because she's beaten all of them.
That's a rematch too.
Mm-hmm.
But a while ago, much longer ago.
3 years old, yeah, but yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
this keep going.
Oh, I was gonna say, for that reason of what you said, how she's kind of beating everyone below, I'm actually kind of keeping Marina there just because I'm not sure what makes sense. I think I would just take her and give her whoever loses this title fight, which in a way is sort of rewarding her, but at least it's a fresh matchup and you're not making her fight someone she's already beat. So that's probably where I go with Marina. Granted, if Lemos was going to get a title shot and not Rose, you could always do Marina Rose as well.
I mean, I was going to say I think that's a good idea because, I mean, yes, it is kind of rewarding her, but you're rewarding her for her overall body of work, that being Rodriguez, because, this loss snaps a 4-fight win streak for Rodriguez. Only her second loss in her whole career, her first time ever being finished. The other time she lost was against Carla Esparza back in 2020. So, yeah, I think there's no reason why you have to sort of plummet her down the rankings and make her really claw her way back up to the top. As far as I'm concerned, she's still right there. At strawweight, she's one of the best in the world. So let's give her another huge matchup. And I think the loser of the next title fight is appropriate for her, man. So, yeah.